Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization, the last video in a little mini-series within the mini-series of getting the raw stimulus magnitude as high as possible, understanding how to train as hard as possible, detecting and perfecting, this time, muscle disruption. Sounds scary. So again, the raw stimulus magnitude is just a proxy idea of how much muscle growth stimulus are we causing in our sessions. And it doesn't factor in fatigue. That's the stimulus to fatigue ratio. But the raw stimulus magnitude is composed of the mind-muscle connection, which is tension and the amount of burn you have in the target muscle, the pump, which we covered last week, tension and burn we covered the week before, and the disruption. Here's the disruption. The way at RP that we sort of catalog disruption is in kind of three different subcategories. You can say a muscle is disrupted from and during the training process while trying to train for hypertrophy if it experiences the following in any combination: strength loss, perturbation, which we'll define that in just a sec, don't worry about that, and soreness, again, in the target muscle. So if you're trying to train your pecs, but your front delts got sore, that's not exactly a win. So, disruption. Let's talk about each one of the things, strength loss, perturbation, and soreness separately, so we can really catalog them, define them, and then figure out how to perfect them. Strength loss doesn't sound like a good thing. You're like, wait a minute, I'm trying to get weaker? No. But if you are training hard and really stimulating the muscle, you're asking a lot of the muscle. The muscle is giving a lot of itself. It is burning through its metabolites. It is causing damage to itself, and it is not going to be able to contract as hard after you have stimulated it. So a really interesting way to assess if a session went well for the target muscle is how much weaker is that target muscle. So for example, if you can curl like 100 pounds or 60 pounds, let's say, for a set of 10, and after a gnarly bicep workout, if you pick up 60-pound barbell, if you can curl it for like a set of 8, come on, man, a whole gnarly bicep workout later, you only lost 2 reps. A really good bicep workout is if you can curl 60 at the beginning, and at the end, someone's like, here's 60, and you're like, ah! And you get like 2 reps, and you're like, holy shit, I don't have biceps anymore. They're dead. Now, you may be recovering wrong. Your genetics might suck. Your food might be awful. Your sleep might be terrible. That's why you're not growing. But you're probably not growing because of the fact that you can't stimulate the muscle hard in a workout if your strength drop-off is that gnarly, right? And this works for every exercise, and it works across exercises. So for example, if you really messed up your back doing pull-ups and dumbbell rows, after the workout, if you try to do a machine row and hit a PR and you succeed, man, you were joking. That wasn't a stimulative workout. That was a warm-up. But if you try to get the machine row and you put on your usual thing you could do 15 reps with, and you do 5.5, and you're like, nope, that's it. I can't do this anymore. My arms don't work. My back doesn't work. That's generally a good sign. So basically, you want strength loss. Real strength loss means you're trying as hard as you can, but your muscle is much weaker, which means you can check at least one of the boxes of disruption, which means you can check at least one of the boxes of you probably causing growth. Next is perturbation. Perturbation is our sort of little slang term for what happens at a more perceptive, experiential level to the muscle. It's not a measured reduction in performance. It's how that muscle feels. First of all, that means the muscle can feel weak. When you do a crazy psycho quad workout that's super effective and stimulates a ton of growth, and you try to walk down a flight of stairs, it's not just that you are weak and that it's hard to walk down the stairs. You feel weak. You try to touch that first step and you're like, holy shit, I don't know if my leg's going to collapse or not. Like, it's not that when you come up and try to curl the 60 for 10 and you curl it for 2 that you realize, oh, interesting, that's 2 reps and that's not 10. I'm weaker. Great. That's a stimulus. When you grab the bar, even when you just do this to try to get into like a little warm up for the bar, you're like, oh man, like my own arm is heavy. What the hell is going on here? You feel the weakness. That's generally a good sign in the target muscle. If you feel general overall weakness, that's systemic. You might have been training like shit and not even hit the target muscle and just get tired, right? Like if you spend, an hour getting beat up in MMA class, that doesn't mean your quads grew. You're going to feel weak, but the quads might not grow at all. However, if your quads feel weak, that's a pretty good sign that at least you stimulated very hard. In addition to that, you can notice some other signs. Trouble coordinating. Try doing a couple of these things. Careful after a really hard bicep workout or front delt workout. Shaving your face. brushing your teeth. You guys ever do that? When you did maybe your first bicep workout in high school and you try to come home and brush your teeth before you go to sleep and you're like, what the hell's going on? I can't brush my own teeth. Fuck. You stand in the bathroom for 5 minutes and you're like, Mom, and then Mom brushes your teeth. I mean, that's how it happened for me. I'm just kidding. What if I wasn't kidding? Wasn't that fucking weird? Throwing a ball. I used to play basketball at the Jewish Community Center of Metropolitan Detroit. There were two of them, the rich people one and the not rich people one. I was at the not rich people one. Not a source of pride, just a statement of fact. And I liked to play basketball there. The Jewish Community Center basketball scene was unreal competitive. And I also liked to lift weights there. I was 15 years old, by the way. And I would play basketball first and then lift weights after. And some of my friends there are like, don't you want to be stronger and bigger? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, why are you getting tired playing basketball first and then training? And I had a very apt response. I said, well, I have tried training first and then playing basketball, but I can't make any shots or dribble the ball because I'm so uncoordinated after my muscles are super fucked up. And they're like, touche. Later, as you could tell by my insufficient height, athleticism, and concomitant interest in basketball, I just clearly went the weight training route. But I noticed early that if I was training, my ability to coordinate my muscles was really far off, especially if I trained like my upper body. If I trained my lower body, I was just kind of slow on my feet, but I could still do the shit with my hands. If I trained my upper body, especially my biceps or triceps, oh my God, I couldn't play any basketball. I could barely grab the fucking ball. Another one is like, not just the weakness, but the coordination of walking down the stairs after you fucked up your quads. I mean, you're like, wait a minute, I forgot how to walk down the fucking stairs? What the hell is going on with me? That's not the best sign in the world that you had the best workout ever. It's not a guarantee. But gee whiz, if you're worried, man, did I really hit my quads hard enough? You have trouble walking down the stairs, coordinating yourself? The answer is probably yes. And lastly, weird muscle perturbation can also cause things like fasciculations or cramps. Fasciculations are when your muscles contract without your sort of conscious approval. So if your biceps are really fucked up and you sort of try to like scratch your face, you do this and your bicep is like, you're like, oh, what the fuck is going on, right? And if you get away easy, it's just a fasciculation. I've had many times, Jesus, one of them was last week after a crazy quad workout or just normal periodized quad workout, which tends to get crazy towards the latter weeks. I was doing a whole bunch of work. I got up from my chair very slowly, and I was like, oh, thank God, because I get up slowly on purpose because I know I'm going to cramp if I get up fast. And then I took my first step, and I got like a mini pre-cramp where the quads are just, they're fucking warning you. They're like, and I'm like, My wife's like, you coming? I'm like, don't say anything. You guys remember that one time I was talking shit about Bill Gates, and then he cramped my ass with the COVID vaccine or whatever? I shouldn't. Man, Scott, can you believe it? I'm still talking shit? Easy, Bill. We're all friends. So in any case, we're not trying to cramp. We're not working out with the goal of, man, if I could fucking cramp, that's great. We're working out with the goal of scientifically inserting as much stimulus as possible into the equation that we can recover from and benefit from. But if we're worried about not getting enough stimulus, but we're regularly cramping after our workouts, gee whiz. And if we're super tired and we have very low strength, we don't have to train harder. That's not the answer. It's a box that we have checked. Lastly, the last checkbox in this list is soreness. Again, we don't have to get sore from training. But if you're asking yourself if you're going hard enough and you're regularly getting sore as fuck, going harder is not the answer. Recovering more, having better nutrition, etc. may be the answer. But going harder in the gym in any one session is not the answer. Soreness does not mean just delayed onset muscle soreness. It means something. The target muscle is maybe just a bit stiff in the few hours after training. You train biceps, they never get sore, but in a few hours after training, you're like, ooh, yeah, I can definitely feel I train them. They don't feel normal. That's a type of soreness. Massive DOMs, days later, peak DOMs 36 hours after, like, you do a huge quad workout and they're just super tired for a day. You wake up the next morning, you're like, I'm not sore. Fuck you, quads. And then as you go through that second day, you're like, oh God. And then you wake up the third day in the morning and you can't move your legs. You're like, oh shit, I'm going to be sore for a week and a half. What the fuck? Right? So anywhere between is all right answer, so to speak, as far as did I do enough? Now, did I do enough might stretch all the way to I did too much. Totally possible. But at the very least, if you're getting regularly sore, even in such a way as just like you just feel it for a few hours after, that's all really good stuff. If you're not feeling any of that, if you go through a whole stimulative workout, you're just as strong at the beginning of the workout or pretty close as when you began. No perturbation, nothing feels weird, nothing like that. And you don't get remotely sore or tight or anything. Could you train harder? Yeah, probably. And that'll probably cause more muscle growth. Now, how do you perfect disruption, or at least make sure you're doing enough of it? The first goal is you want to be well practiced in how to detect target muscle disruption, and especially strength loss and perturbation within the session before it ends, because you don't want to go too far and you want to know that you're on the right track. If you're doing like trying a leg extension machine, you're doing 5 sets and someone's like, hey, pretty fucked up. You flex your quad, extend your quad, squat up and down with your body weight. If you're like, no, then fuck, man. Either change the exercise, change the technique, or change something because it's clearly not working. But if it is really working, awesome. And if after 5 sets of leg extensions, you try to squat down and you fall because your legs can't support you, maybe it's time to go home and train quads another time because they probably had their fill. Goal number 2 is to optimize your technique and effort for any given regular exercise that you do, to do as much disruption as you can given a certain number of sets. Any fucking idiot with the worst squat technique in the world can get sore quads from doing 20 sets of squats in one session. Your technique really just doesn't matter at that point. If you're bending the knee at all, 20 sets of knee bends at any degree will probably fuck up your quads. But show me someone who has such good technique that with only 3 or 4 sets of squats can fuck their quads completely up. Now that's a person that knows how to train, right? That is a very good thing, and it's grounded in good technique. A lot of times, the reason people aren't getting sore or disrupted from squats or leg presses or any other exercise is that their technique sucks. You fix their technique, you get them to go lower, spread their knees apart, stay upright, and all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, I am perturbed. My quads don't work normally, and that's a very, very good thing. And another one is relative effort. How hard you train matters. If doing 3 sets of 10 leg press and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to get sore from this, man. I don't get sore from leg presses. Like, really? You don't get sore from leg press? Like, nah. Okay, well, try this. And you get good technique going with them, and then you push them 1 more rep and 1 more rep and 1 more rep. And again, you guys have seen the training videos. They get off that first set of leg press and they're like, oh my God. They're like, feeling anything in your quads? Like, I don't even feel my quads, man. I don't even know what the fuck's going on. They try to run away, but they can't because their quads don't work anymore, right? So that's a good sign. A good lifter, remember, every set you do, to some extent, adds fatigue and can do some wear and tear on your joints within reason. If you are so good at causing disruption that it takes you very few sets to cause a ton of it, to the muscle, not the joint, not the system, you're winning in every possible way. Goal number 3 is to be able to cause and detect a robust disruption in pretty much all sessions. Every session for every muscle group that you're doing, you're fucking up the muscles, not too much, not a ton, but enough to know that you're going to heal on time. You can also know a rough amount of strength loss, a rough amount of perturbation. The soreness is something you detect later, that you can cap your sessions and stop them when you know you've had enough. So for example, and this is actually really common, people will do a given quad workout, and let's say they plan to do 10 sets of quads, but after set number 7, they're having trouble walking. Man, it's probably time to go home. But if they plan to do 5 sets of quads and after 5 sets, they still have spring in their step, keep fucking training. So a lot of times when you get really, really good at detecting what's going on, you can auto-regulate your training to say, hey, I'm already fucked up, and I know last week I got more fucked up than this, and I took way too long to recover. I'm going to cap it right here, right now, and that's how it's going to work. You essentially turn into like a finely tuned training machine, knowing exactly how much effort and volume you're going to need to heal right on time for the next session, to stack the sessions on top of each other and get good long-term hypertrophy. In addition to that, of course, you're going to be paying attention to your soreness, not during the session, but in the days between, so that you have an idea that how you alter the stimulus for next time, how you alter the volumes for next time can do a couple of things. Based on your strength loss and perturbation, you know how to cap the session and you know when it's time to be done. Or because there's not a ton of strength loss or perturbation yet, you're like, nah, I need to do another few sets of quads before I get out of here. You can alter your volumes based on previous history of soreness to know roughly how sore you're going to get. So if last week you did 5 sets of quads and you got sore for 2 days and you train every 3 or 4 days for quads, perfect. This week, it's maybe 6 sets is the answer. If someone's like, hey, you want to do my 12-set quad workout with me? Get the fuck out of here, man. I will never heal from that. Or they're like, hey, just 2 sets of quads and you'll be dying and you'll never heal. Like, get out of here, man. I did 5 last week. I did them really hard. I healed on time. I think this week is 5 or 6. It's not going to be 12 and it's not going to be 2, right? And the pump can be instructive here as well. So not only if your quads are ultra pumped and they're super perturbed and super weak, and you know last week they felt like this and it took you a normal amount of time to finish healing up from soreness, all these sort of pieces of information come together where someone's like, oh, good God, I lost my voice for no reason. If someone's like, hey, do you want to do another set or two of quads? You can be like, hey, man, honestly and intelligently, all ego aside, no, I've had my fill. Or they're like, hey, man, we're done, right? And you're like, nope, I need a couple more sets of quads until I get the pump that I need, until I get the disruption that I need, based on my history of soreness and based on how perturbed I am right now and how weak, I know I need a bit more to get going. Once you have all these systems working in your favor, and look, this takes years to really come close to perfecting, you know a lot of shit. Now, one last story for you guys before I fuck off. The first time I really figured out how to hip hinge properly, arch my lower back and keep my knees back in the stiff-legged deadlift was like a few times into doing it. I did like 185 for a few sets of 8. And then a few weeks later, I finally figured out how to hip hinge. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. And I will never forget this workout. I did 3 sets of 12, stiff-legged deadlift, good range of motion with 205 pounds. And I was like 210 pounds at the time, natty and shit. I was pretty jacked, pretty strong, already a power lifter. And the first set of 12, I got a fucking gnarly pump and enough disruption and perturbation that I was like walking weird. I was like, well, you know, I was young. I didn't know any better. Ideally, I would have just stopped and been sore for 4 or 5 days and I'd been like, wow, just one set. I did another set of also 12. And at that point, you're learning a new exercise. The neural efficiency goes up so fast, literally between sets, that you can just repeat perform 12, 12, 12. After the second set, I tried to touch my heel to my ass and I couldn't do it. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do 2 sets for hamstrings. Like Flex Magazine says 4 sets of 12, so I'll do 3 at least. I did 3 sets of 12. I didn't hit peak soreness until 3 days later. And I had a job at the time. I was working for like a psychiatry clinic as like a database designer. And I was walking through the halls of that job and people were like, are you okay? And I was like, I had to explain what's going on. My gait, I wasn't pretending. It wasn't like for show. My walking gait was off for 1.5 weeks. I was maximum sore for 1 week straight and then a small bit of soreness for another half week. I was ready to train again 2 weeks later. Fuck! I wish I'd have known this shit because as soon as one set would have been done, I've been like, oh, and I'm out. I should have done that. I didn't. Did I grow muscle from that? I don't know, man. I probably lost muscle, to be honest. Like, there's muscle loss models of damage when they fuck up the animals in training so much they actually lose muscle because it's too much to recover from. I'd say 2.5 weeks to recover. That's a bit much. So take it from me, my painful journey. I think it was funny the whole time, but I never did that shit again. Use these indicators. Try to make sure that you're using the mind-muscle connection, using the pump, using muscle disruption, all intelligently. And here's the big one, with no ego. You're there to do a specific job, and you have these tools to detect when that job is well on its way, how to alter that job to be better, and when that job has been done, you can sign off on it and fuck off. This whole idea of like, come on, man, another set of fucking curls. Get out of my face, bro, guy. I gotta go home and eat, sleep, and get fucking jacked. See you guys next time.